Hello there, my little monsters. No, I just stole that from Lady Gaga. I'm sorry. Yes, welcome. Good evening. My name is Murray Foster. I'm with the Toronto Songwriting School, and welcome to our Business of Music series. I think this is the third or fourth one we've done. Toronto Songwriting School, we are now an online songwriting school. We do beginner and intermediate courses, which are starting in about 4 weeks, new ones. We do lyric writing classes every second Saturday. And in non-pandemic years, we do getaways where we take songwriters, a bunch of songwriters to places around the world, around Ontario. And between Mary Krause and I, the brain trust of TSS, we are secretly plotting, perhaps, maybe, a getaway this fall. But don't tell anybody, and don't tell anyone I told you. But definitely once it's safe to do so, we will be doing getaways again, songwriter getaways. I'm sure the first one will be Ontario, but we've done New Orleans, Dublin, St. John's, a bunch of really cool cities, Nashville and stuff like that. So the Business of Music series, this is a series that we started a few months ago. We will be continuing it once a month, I think, for the next, for most of the rest of the year. And it's something we do to sort of give back to our community and to arm our community with the knowledge they need to navigate the music scene, the music industry. A music industry that is, with every passing year, maybe more confusing, but also harder to make a living inside of. And so this is our way of providing you with the tools of knowing how the music industry works, so that you can get paid in some way. And that is sort of an inadvertent perfect segue to our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is Marianne Anderson. She is with the CMRRA. She is the Publisher Relations Manager of the CMRRA. As I said to her just a few moments ago, my introduction of her is going to be very short because I don't understand. Well, I have a vague understanding, but I don't feel confident in introducing CMRRA or her job as well as she can. So, so that will be up to her tonight. We're going to bring on in a second, but Marianne's going to come on. She's going to do a PowerPoint. She's going to talk for a while. I'm going to go away. Then I'm going to come back magically, chat with her a bit, interview her a bit, and then we will open up to questions. So as the evening progresses, think of questions, those nagging little, things that are bothering you. No question too large, no question too small. Whatever you want to ask, and whatever you feel, in any way that Marianne can help you in terms of understanding what CMRRA does and how you can better navigate the music ecosystem these days. Okay, that's me talking. Let's bring Marianne back through magic.
Hello.
How about that? Super magical. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Great. And you said you were in the GTA area?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Our office is located in Toronto.
Right. Great. Excellent. Well, thank you for doing this, first of all, and on short notice to step in for Rebecca, who couldn't make it tonight. And as I said, I won't step on your toes by trying to introduce you further. So I'll leave you to it, and just bring me back in whenever you want.
Sounds great. Thank you, Murray.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have much more knowledge about what we do and how we will likely be able to help you out. I've been with CMRRA for nearly 25 years, and in that time I've worked in almost every area, and I've fortunately seen a lot of the new lines of business, the new developments over the past decade or two. So I have quite a bit of knowledge about this industry, but it's changing all the time, so I'm constantly learning. So I'm going to be, I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation. I am looking at 2 screens, so I will take questions at the end when I come back in. Just bear with me. Okay, so here we are. Hopefully everyone can see the screen. I'll just walk you through this and give you a bit of a history about who we are, what we do, and how that may apply to you. We've been around since the mid-70s, and our specialty is reproduction rights. So that's our primary business line. Back when we first started, all that existed was mechanical licensing and synchronization licensing. So, back then would have been cassettes, vinyl, that type of thing, and synchronization licensing. So over the years, we've moved into different business lines. As technology has advanced, we've advanced too. Just some stats up here. I'm not going to read this to you. You can all see the screen, hopefully, but it's just giving you some information about how much money we distributed in 2020 to our clients. And this is royalties owed to publishers and self-published songwriters. You could see here that we represent everyone from the major labels or major publishers through to self-published songwriters, like many of you may be, and everyone in between. So if you are a copyright owner, you control the publishing on your song, then you can be a CMRRA client. Some people take care of that themselves. Some have formalized publishers. Other ones may be their business managers or accountants who help them in this ecosystem. So any number of these businesses, people can be clients of ours. And just describing what music publishing is. Okay, so music publishers in general are people who are going to, grow your catalog, or should grow your catalog. They're not simply administering the songs or a receiving house to get payment. A true music publisher is someone who you can go to for advice. They'll support you in different ways. Oftentimes they'll set up co-writing opportunities. And they will pitch songs, oftentimes in synchronization, for synchronization uses. So, a music publisher is much more than, someone who's just simply collecting the royalties on your behalf. If you're a self-published songwriter, you're in essence your own publisher. So, you can certainly affiliate with us. We will help you, we'll help issue licenses, collect royalties. But we're not actually going to be pitching your songs anywhere or setting you up with other writers. If your goal is to get a publishing deal at some point in time and you are already affiliated with us, we could just simply move your songs over at that point in time and direct everything to the publisher. A little bit more about, benefits of music publishers. And they're champions, looking out for your best interests as a whole in the industry. Okay, so this is just circling back to what I was talking about, that if you don't have a music publisher, you're your own music publisher. And we have a large number of clients who are self-published songwriters. So I do interact with them pretty much on a daily basis. There are many, many questions, and we highly encourage you to ask questions where you have them. That's what we're here for, is to help you. Okay. We distribute royalties 4 times a year. So we actually have a really quick turnaround time from the time we get the royalties in the door to us distributing the royalties. It's about a 30-day window. That's it. So we work strictly on a commission basis. So it's in our best interest to make sure you're getting paid what you're owed, and paid quickly, because we don't take our commission until we're preparing the royalties for distribution. So it doesn't cost anything to become a member of CMRRA or continue being a member. because we work strictly on commission basis. And that rate varies between 5 and 8%, depending on the business line. It's all laid out in our agreement. Something like the international collections, which I'll touch on, is 5%. Something like physical mechanicals is 8%, and online is 6%. So this is a big misconception about CMRRA. You do not have to be a Canadian to be a client. Traditionally, what we've done is we've taken care of issuing licenses and collecting royalties in the Canadian territory. But in fact, quite a high number of our clients live outside of Canada. We just take care of activity here, and more recently have expanded into other territories. So we're, in essence, a collective management organization. So where we represent the largest number of rights holders, so publishers and self-published songwriters, we can collectively act as a voice when we're going before the Copyright Board of Canada, when we're negotiating agreements directly with online music services looking to start a business in Canada. So, because we have the numbers, I believe it's about 95% of the market is what we represent in this respect. Now, the royalty rates, this is just touching on how a royalty rate may be formed. Physical mechanicals, which was, again, that traditional business we were first in, that's for CDs, vinyl, that type of thing. That royalty rate was 2 cents per song per copy up until 1988, when we lobbied to increase that rate. And I believe it went up to 4.25 or 5.25 cents per song per copy. So, we were successful in raising royalty rates in that respect, and it had gone up every year to a certain point in time. When you have a new business line, like, Apple, for instance, let's use that as an example. iTunes came into the scene, Spotify, these were new business lines. So there was no set royalty rate to follow. We negotiated directly with the online music services. We had to go before the Copyright Board of Canada to set tariffs and establish those rates, reporting structures, that type of thing. So that kind of set the stage for, what a download value is, what a streaming value is. And over the years, what we've been able to do is negotiate directly with the online music services instead of having to go back before the Copyright Board of Canada each time. That is a very lengthy and expensive process, but one that was required then and is occasionally. We want to make sure that the songwriters, publishers are getting value for the uses. Yes, so this is just touching on the relationships that we have and we've developed over the past decade, 2 decades with these services, helps to move things along faster. Just giving you an example of some of the organizations we work with. Any and every online music service operating in Canada, we have relationships with radio stations, in the sense that, there are different tariffs or different business lines that factor radio play into the equation. Using broadcast mechanical as an example, that is broadcasters paying to make copies of songs on their servers. So everything we do is based on reproduction rights, copying activity. So because the broadcasters make copies of songs on their servers, they're realizing a value in, being able to program their shows. It just makes their operation run more efficiently. So, we expect that they are going to pay for making those copies of songs on their servers. Some of the newer business lines are YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, that type of thing. So YouTube, if you if you have a video on YouTube's platform, you've monetized it, so you've in essence tagged that as containing a musical asset that you control. What will happen is when we get the monthly log from YouTube, we'll run it through our system, determine if we represent you for this particular right. If we do, we'll calculate out the associated value that's owed to you that quarter for views by Canadian residents. So this is just, explaining at a high level how things progress. I will take you through the steps involved with, from the time you affiliate to the time you get paid, just so you can, visualize that, or helps paint a better picture in that respect. And this is just touching on the fact that we're a sound exchange company. Sound exchange processes massive amounts of data. We do as well, but not to the same extent. So this arrangement has allowed us to update our systems, optimize them even more so, which has been a very good relationship. And we operate separately, though, from Sound Exchange. So you can be affiliated with CMRRA directly, and you can be affiliated with Sound Exchange directly, because they handle different rights. And right here, it just explains that Sound Exchange handles digital performing rights. And they deal on the performer and sound recording side. And we'll touch on the differentiation in coming slides here. So that should make more sense shortly. We're overseen by a committee of publishers. And this is separate from Sound Exchange's activities. So it was important to us to make sure that the voice of the publisher and self-published songwriters was still well represented in Canada. So our Canadian Publishers Committee is that voice. Any big decisions need to be made by them, need to cross their desks. So this has been really good for us, and good for publishers and self-published songwriters. Okay, so this is just taking you through, the whole concept of reproductions and how this fits in. So obviously a reproduction is you're making copies of it. Musical reproduction, you're making copies of songs specifically. And then the musical reproduction rights is just giving you the right to make those copies. So if someone is manufacturing a CD or vinyl, for instance, whether it's a major label or someone is covering someone else's song and putting it on their album, we handle that licensing. So if you are an artist who is releasing someone else's songs, you may interact with us to get licenses if you're releasing physical product. And you may also be a client where we are issuing licenses and collecting royalties on your behalf for other uses. If let's say it's on Spotify or what have you, we could be helping you in that respect. Okay, and that's just the licensing. It's giving you permission to use that. Okay, so this I find is a helpful graphic. Kind of breaks it into two sides. So you can see there's on one side of the coin is the reproduction right, on the other side is the master right. So oftentimes that's a record company, but if you are recording your own album, you're paying for everything. You own the master rights as well. So just know that there are two types of reproductions. It's the original recording, which is the master right, and where we come in, which is the reproduction on the publishing side. Okay, performance right, we're not involved at all in performing rights. There's the performance itself, and then the neighboring right, which is is very confusing for a lot of people. But we have organizations that take care of this. And there you go. You can see them there. So that helps break things down a little bit better for you. I'll just give you a minute to read through that. I don't need to read it to you. So we enter the picture, obviously, at the reproduction right of a song specifically. So if you are a songwriter, you're the performer, you released the product yourself, you're wearing many hats in that case, as you can see. You want to make sure that you're collecting from every potential revenue source. Okay, so the composition, the song itself factors in for the reproduction right and the performance right. And then this is the recording side. Okay, and if at the top there, the title popped up where there's always one composition, there could be several recordings. Our systems are based on that original song or work. You'll hear us reference it as being. So, we have one song written by someone. You think of what is Hallelujah one that comes to mind, Leonard Cohen's song. How many times has that been recorded? So we will receive license requests for that song by a certain artist, and then it's up to us to make sure that matches back to that original song or work in our system. And as you can imagine, there are any number of licenses associated with each one. This is where it's important to have good metadata. Thankfully, we had the foresight many years ago when online, digital uses started becoming prevalent to start collecting that metadata. So, that's the song title, all of the writers, the publishers, ISWCs, which is the work code. That's a unique identifying number issued to that work. And then the ISRC, which is the unique identifying number issued to the recording. So our systems have all of this information available and ready to cross-reference depending on the license we get. So we can make the systems work for us versus, looking at each and every license request that comes in. Okay, that's just giving you the complete picture here. Okay, so splits or shares. This helps to identify who owns what in a song. So assuming all of you are songwriters that are listening right now, it's very, very important that if you are co-writing with someone else, that you establish who has writer credit. It could be broken down by who wrote the music, who wrote the lyrics, or it could be both, and who has what share of the publishing. We have 2 people dedicated to handling counterclaims, what we call, or disputes on song ownership or control. So these are cases where co-writers maybe don't agree on the claims they're making, or it could be the song as a whole. 2 publishers or 2 parties are disputing that claim. So it's very, very important that you establish that. Like if you're leaving a session, it might be an awkward conversation to have initially, but it's very important that you establish that right from the get-go. That way there won't be any conflicts down the road, which, if there are conflicts, that could hold up you getting your royalties. This is an example here of a song, Drunk in Love. Beyonce recorded this. There's an idea of how many songwriters and how many publishing claims could be associated with that. And in our system, we issue licenses and collect royalties at a share level. So if there are 7 publishers on this song, we're going to issue 7 licenses for every single use. We don't need to know who owns 100% of the song or have 100% of the claims on file in order to do that, because we issue that at issue the licenses at the share level. So if you have 50% of a song and someone else has 50% of it, you got everything registered with us. that's not gonna, or the fact that the other writer may not have registered that with us won't hold anything up. So, we'll license your 50% of share of the song, and hopefully that other writer comes forward and affiliates with us and registers their claim. But that doesn't interfere in the process. Here's one of the more extreme examples I like to use. I didn't check it before this session here to see if it's changed at all, because it has changed over time. The Kanye West song "I'm in It." It has a sample, and I believe it's a sample of a song that contains a sample. So just to touch on that for a minute, when a song is sampled, those original writers and publishers of the song being sampled get credit on the new one. So this is where it can quickly balloon in the number of writers and publishers associated with a work. First of all, if you're going to sample a song, you need permission to do so. And at the same time you're obtaining permission, you need to establish how that publishing is going to be divided, because the original publisher or publishers of the song being sampled get credit in this new work. That all needs to be ironed out right from the get-go, and hopefully is. So just want to make sure you know that you do need permission to sample a song, and they can refuse, or they can, the song you're sampling, that publisher could say, I want 75% of the publishing on this if you want to use it, or 50%. There really is no set rule in that respect. Obviously, the more popular the song, the higher percentage they may ask for, but there's no set rule in this respect. So this is one of those songs, the Kanye West song "I'm in It," that I am bound and determined to figure out who owns 100% of the publishing on it. There are, it says it here, 22 claims of less than 6% ownership. The smallest publishing percentage on this song is 0.03%. So you can imagine, if it was one stream, that's already micro pennies, and then you have 0.03% of that. You need a lot of streams to get something notable out of this if you own that 0.03% publishing. And I joke around about, in cases like that, with that small percentage of publishing, maybe that was the person bringing the coffee that day and they thought, hey, let's give you some of the publishing on it. This is just talking about where mechanical reproduction comes from. It's ingrained in history. Okay, so just circling back to the different business lines we're involved with, so you understand how this fits into the ecosystem here, is, again, it's reproductions or copies where we enter the picture. So mechanicals, as I call it, that's when it's reproduced on physical product. I've heard that cassettes had made a bit of a resurgence. I haven't bought any in many years, but I have started collecting vinyl again. But basically, mechanical licensing factors into the equation when something like a physical product is being manufactured or it's being imprinted on. The broadcast mechanical, I touched on this earlier, where this is broadcasters paying to make copies of songs on their servers. So there are different divisions that fall under this umbrella. You have commercial radio stations that pay, a set percentage. CBC has its own rates, college campus radio. And then you have satellite radio that falls in here. And basically what this is we receive airplay data, and then you have a pool of money collected each year from these broadcasters, and that determines who gets paid what. So if your song is getting played on a commercial radio station like Q107, you're going to show up in the logs that we get from them, and there will be a resulting royalty earned out of that. But yes, it encompasses a massive area of broadcasters. And the name is a bit confusing because people will think this is a performance royalty, but it's not. This is a reproduction royalty. And in fact, this didn't exist until we argued before the Copyright Board of Canada that it should, and rights holders should be compensated for these reproductions. This is that lobbying that I was touching on before. As a collective management organization, we can be a voice and argue why broadcasters should be paying this. And obviously no one wants to pay money, but we were successful in this, and it's been a good revenue source for a lot of our clients. And there are the different divisions. We're talking about the background music services as well, pay audio. So Sirius XM, is covered under this. They're a broadcaster. Okay. One thing I'd like to mention here when it comes to digital licensing or online licensing is that it's structured differently here in Canada than it is in the US. In the US, I think they were the first on scene many years ago, and the labels were involved with licensing, and royalties would be passed through the label to the publishers and self-published songwriters. Here, it's been structured in a way that allows us to license them directly. So we think we know, our data is way better, and we know our clients and who we represent or don't. And so we actually invoice the online music services quarterly for all of the activity, which is unique and has proven to be quite helpful. So we can be sure that, if Amazon Music says, this is, these are the logs for this month or these 3 months from our subscribers, we run that through our system and calculate out the associated value based on the rates. And then we tell them what they owe us. Obviously, they do their checks and balances and then pay us shortly thereafter. Now, the level of detail we have on our royalty statements can be mind-boggling at times because it's so detailed. We can tell you, for Spotify, for instance, we can tell you, was this streamed as a family plan, an individual? Was this a student? We can take it back to, the original period of earnings. We can invoice retroactively to day one for these online music services. So if you have had a song available on Apple Music, iTunes for 10 years, we can go back and invoice for all of that activity. It's not lost. So, these online music services don't just automatically pay us 100% of everything and say, here, you figure out who to pay, whether we represent them or not. It doesn't work that way. We can only issue licenses and collect royalties if you've given us permission to do so. And at that point in time, we will go and look for any activity on your behalf. So I think it's very important for you to know that, we can go back to day one here. And that's the online music services operating in Canada specifically. The US is a different story, and outside of North America, which I'll touch on in the international collections. Okay. Yeah, so that's the retroactive piece there. Back to 2004, I think, was the first reporting we had received. I've been around longer than that, so I've seen those early days and how things have shifted over time. And it's been quite interesting. Okay. Audiovisual post-synchronization is a newer business line. You can see what that is right there. So this is the YouTube I was talking about, Facebook, Instagram. You know how you can add music to your Instagram stories, that type of thing. It gives you a library of songs to choose from. That's us saying, this is who you have permission to, whose songs you have permission to use in Canada. So if you want to be added to that, then you'd have to sign up for this specific business line. We have separated it out in our agreement so that people can pick and choose what they're affiliating for, like what business lines. And even within, we drill down to audiovisual post-synchronization here. you could sign up for Facebook specifically and or YouTube specifically. So that way it gives you a bit more flexibility in that respect. It's not an all or nothing proposition in that area. So this is just talking about timelines here. We're not going to spend much time on here in agreements, but this is speaking to us as a collective management organization, looking for new business opportunities, value associated with these works and songs. So as you have new services entering the market, it brings on potentially new revenue sources. The TikTok here, I've heard that's imminent. So any of our existing clients, if you happen to be a client, will be hearing about that, or you will in the future. And then the foreign collections piece, which I'll touch on, the international collections. Okay, so I'll touch on that here. So traditionally, we've taken care of, uses in Canada. More recently, we've expanded outside of that. We've partnered with the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC. I'm sure you've heard of it, especially with respect to how much money was paid over to them from the online music services in the US. So things that are very important for you to know are that this is specific to digital licensing in the US, and it's royalties that were unclaimed or undistributed. So those royalties were paid over to this new body called the Mechanical Licensing Collective, where people can sign up with them directly. Collective management organizations like ourselves sign up with them. And we can go in, review the files, and claim royalties on behalf of our members. So any client who wants us to manage that claims process, see what's in there, and claim the royalties from the MLC, we do offer that as a service. Separately from that, in the international collection side, we've partnered with Impel to handle ex-North America. So, this is structured so that you can engage us to collect only through Impel for ex-North America, or only through the MLC. So, you have flexibility in that respect as well. Most of our clients are opting for us or instructing us to collect for both, which is nice and speaks to the confidence they have in our ability to claim their songs. But this brings on a whole new potential revenue source for our clients. So that just started this year. We're at the phase where we are exchanging data with both the MLC and Impel, and then claims will happen from there, royalties distributed, and once royalties flow in through us, they become part of our normal quarterly distribution schedule. He's just touching on more like that. The Impel has that added bonus of also collecting royalties from Facebook and YouTube, ex-North America. So the MLC is specific to digital, so downloading and streaming only. It doesn't include YouTube or Facebook for the US. It's just talking about how the MLC was formed. It was legislated in the US. It was a new body created to provide this service, so that they didn't have the same situation that they were in before, where they had massive amounts of unclaimed royalties. I think it was $424 million was paid over to the MLC earlier this year. So they just opened for business, in essence, this year as well. Okay, and you can read that there. So, it's just touching on the fact that we will go and look through the files and see what may be yours in there and claim it on your behalf. A lot of that will be done through data exchange process. Some of it will be done manually where need be. But, a number of our clients are trusting us with this whole process on their behalf. Is to, if there's anything to claim on their behalf, we will. And obviously we'll provide detailed royalty statements, much like we already do. Okay, and Impel, there are right now, there's 76 countries that we will be collecting royalties from through our partnership with Impel. And my understanding is more will be added, likely looking at 2022, but I don't have a firm timeline on that yet. That's in development. Okay, and this is just touching on what they're calling the core territories. So if you are actually looking at our affiliation agreement, you'll see a reference to USA, which is the MLC piece, and core territories, which is Impel. And there are the number of the countries. You can see there, this is all in our affiliation agreement and the terms and conditions. So, okay, and just a graphic there that helps to visualize. We will be sending all of this data to Impel. They will be licensing, collecting, and sending it back to us, and then we will distribute that to our clients, the self-published songwriters and music publishers. And then the MLC, same idea there. Okay, so this is just a graphic relating to those unidentified works in the MLC's database and how that's all going to work. We're deep into this process right now. I'm not involved in the data exchange myself, thankfully, but there are processes in place to regularly be able to claim royalties out of their system. Okay, and then they become part of the regular quarterly distribution, as you see. Okay, and this is just speaking to some of the benefits of being with CMRRA. We run a lean operation, I will say that. We are, because we don't get paid until we are preparing that royalty for payout to you, or royalty to distribute to you, it's in our best interest as well to make sure we're doing a good job and quickly. And the fact that we have these long-term relationships, it allows us to negotiate more effectively, with respect to the speed it takes to reach an agreement and the rates associated with those uses. And we're always looking for new business opportunities as well. So there are things in the queue, TikTok I mentioned before, and some other things that our business affairs department looks after. And we have some really good negotiators in there. So I'll give you a second to look at that. Any questions specific to your situation or in depth, you can always send to inquiries@cmrra.ca. That will make sure it gets to the right person if you send an email there. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully I can answer some questions or interact with people. There we go.
Marianne, I'm back.
Yes, thank you. I see a person. Yeah.
I know. Well done. That was great. Do you need to take a sip of water after all that PowerPointing?
No, I'm
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
That was great. That was great. And for me, and I think for a lot of people out there, I've heard all of this before, but it's pretty convoluted, and the terminology is also, there's a very fine line between some of those terms, and it tends to get messed up. But I thought that was a really good PowerPoint, so thanks very much for that.
No, you're welcome.
So I have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone posts, say, my song on Facebook, they report to you and they say his song was played. You ask them for money, they give you money, and you give the money to me. That's how that works, right?
Yes, at a high level.
Yeah. So here, my question is, what are examples of organizations using my song without permission? And how do you track them down? What's an example of that, and what do you do about that?
Um, well, I don't know that I can name specific companies, but let's say in theory, you opened up an online music service and you were offering songs for streaming from your website or from your site. If you had not already been in negotiations with us, reached an agreement, you can be certain that you would hear from our business affairs department, which are lawyers,
Right.
explaining what your obligations are as a service operating here, offering songs for streaming or downloading to Canadian residents, and then the talks would progress from there. So the early days, a lot of people were just, sites were popping up and then they were assuming that licensing would happen after the fact. Some even not realizing they needed licenses or hoping that no one noticed they existed. But if something comes to our attention, I can guarantee our business affairs department has either already talked to them or will be talking to them.
Excellent. That's great. So, as you said, mechanical. The word mechanical comes from physical reproduction. I'm wondering what percentage of your business is now physical, like CDs, vinyl, cassettes. That must be a fraction of what it was, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It used to be like king or queen, the physical product, because you didn't have alternative ways to consume music, right? Or listen to music. So that has, obviously gone down significantly over time, but there are still people buying physical product and we will continue to license that. I know myself, I like to, have buy a CD or vinyl, more recently started collecting more vinyl, even buying new vinyl, not just used. So, that's just me, and maybe I'm more old school. But I also subscribe to a streaming site, so there's many different areas.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
mechanicals for physical product has dwindled quite significantly from where it was. And we used to have record clubs, right? Like Columbia House,
Mm-hmm.
BMG Direct used to have their own record clubs. So those obviously don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. I miss them.
Yeah.
They were awesome. Um, so Daniel Ek, who owns Spotify, I think within the last 24 hours, made it known that he wants to buy the Arsenal Football Club, which is valued at $2 billion.
Wow.
And I think he's worth $3 billion. So there's one story that I think we're all familiar with, which is the sort of really, really tragically low rates that, for example, Spotify pays, or YouTube, all that stuff, right? And meanwhile, these stories come out that Daniel Ek, the owner of Spotify, is buying an English football club, one of the biggest in the world. So I'm wondering what CMRRA, because you said you negotiate directly with them, and you were part of that first group of organizations that set those initial rates. Now, several years later, now that streaming is the way that music is really distributed, now that physical has really gone away, and it's not going back. It's not going back to the way it was, despite how many vinyl albums you and I buy personally. What can and what does CMRRA do in that fight, sort of politically? Because it is it's the big story in terms of artists, getting recompensed for their work. So does CMRRA wade into those waters, and what's your position on that?
Well, I can't speak too much about that because I'm not part of, I'm not sitting at the table negotiating the rates, that type of thing. I know, I think probably the US, countries like that were some of the first on scene, and hindsight's 2020, right? Where there are precedents set, you kind of have to, you get challenges or you're challenging them for the value. And, you know, at a certain point in time, it has to get done, the deal, right? So some people have said, I don't want you using my music at all on this site. Totally fine. That's your right. You know, if you control the song, the publishing, you have every right to do that. You know, so I can't really comment too much on that. I know that we are always looking to, you know, gain ground in that respect and increase the rates. But, you know, how that happens, I mean, it takes years sometimes to get, you know, sign on the dotted line. You know, I know it's tough, like as songwriters, it's tough to make a living as a songwriter alone. You know, very few can do that, you know, sustain a regular source of income over many years writing just songs, right? That's why so many people are also performers, or co-writing with other people. A lot of them have other jobs to, you know, try to make ends meet. So it's, you know, I don't want people to feel devalued in all of that, despite, you know, the reality of the low royalty rates. You know, where would we be without the songs and songwriters, right? I mean, I don't want to live in that world, so keep writing, please.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any sense of where that fight is going to go, or where it's headed?
I don't know. You know, I'll leave those kinds of conversations up to the business affairs people, the main players in all of that ecosystem. You know, we work, you know, me and our organization works to make sure that, you know, whatever royalties are out there and owed to that self-published songwriter publisher, we're claiming them on their behalf. You know, if it's 5 cents, it's 5 cents. That's your money. You know, we will claim it and make sure it makes its way to you.
Cool. A couple questions from our assembled throngs in cyberspace. Do people still say cyberspace? I don't know. I feel like that's gone away a little bit. Okay. Mr. David Kramer says, do you ever have anything to do with Canadian music publishing, scores, etc.? Is there an organization that does that sort of thing you'd recommend?
I would probably have to ask you questions in order to know how to answer that. If you have something specific to your situation, David, then I would recommend that you get in touch with us. So then that way we can have a dialogue back and forth. You know, scores, I mean, if there's something offered as a track for downloading or streaming, or it's reproduced on something, you know, sure, there'd be an associated license and royalty collected for where there's activity. But if it's something like that broaches on the synchronization licensing in its truest sense, we're not involved in that. That would be negotiated between the user, or the licensee, and the rights holder.
Cool. Okay, thank you. I'm going to paraphrase the next one. If I'm recording a cover song and I want to do a reggae version of a waltz, can I alter the words at all to fit this different rhythm that I've recorded, or is that completely forbidden?
I wouldn't say it's completely forbidden. What I would recommend you do is get in touch with the publisher or publishers of that song you're looking to alter. You know, even if it's slightly, you need their permission to do so. It's easier to approach them right up front versus what you could be dealing with down the road. You know, if you've changed the original arrangement of the song, you could run into issues. So we do hear from people who ask for our help in trying to determine who the publisher is, and we will share that information with you, and then you need to get in touch with them to get their permission to do that. You know, they may want to hear a recording, they may want to see the lyrics written out, they may say no, you know, they may say yes. But right up front, get in touch with the publisher and have that discussion with them. That's outside of anything that we're doing. So if a newly created work is the result of this, so they've said yes, then that may be a brand new song registered with us. And then you have part of the writing and publishing, and they have part of the writing and publishing. So it's not a sample, but it's a new work being created.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you. Here's a question from Adam. You ready? I'm going to quote this directly. Where does a company like TuneCore fit into all of this? How would CMRRA interact with someone with songs already distributed, maybe that's not the right word, to various online platforms through TuneCore?
Okay, I can answer this, no problem. So TuneCore is what I call an aggregator. So they will act on your behalf. Well, traditionally TuneCore, CD Baby, organizations like that are initially would offer to distribute your royalties, like have it uploaded to different sites around the world. So they provide that service. What they provide, if you, as a paid service, separately from that, is they will collect your publishing if you want them to. So I know TuneCore has, I can't remember the name of their service that does that. CD Baby has CD Baby Pro, where you are instructing them to collect your publishing royalties worldwide. So if you have engaged them for that service, they will register your works with us, and we'll license and collect the royalties and report back to them, and then they'll forward it to you per the terms of your agreement. So if you have that type of an arrangement, you're taken care of already. You don't need to affiliate with us directly. And in fact, if you do affiliate with us directly, it'll create a bit of a conflict, which we'll sort out. But this is what you've asked them to do on your behalf, in essence.
Cool. Andy asks the following question. What is the difference between your organization and a company like Song Trust?
So Song Trust does factors into the CD Baby Pro equation. So I think that's what you're asking, Andy. If you've asked them to collect your royalties, if you're asking for like Song Trust or a publisher in that sense, like a music publisher, they would, on your behalf, still register your works with us and claims. We'd pay them, and then they'd pay you still. So that arrangement still fits in this scenario either way.
Cool. Okay. I think this is the last question. And we will, if anyone has any more questions, now's the time to put them up. But Adam comes back with another question. Adam is full of questions. Here's his new question. If someone were to write a new song tomorrow, and I assume that someone is Adam, record it and want to distribute it, at what point would you recommend that they bring an organization like CMRRA into the conversation?
Yep, fair question, and I'm glad you asked. So basically, if you are releasing it, other than, a physical, like a CD, for instance, that you've released yourself, if it's being released, it's a good time to engage us. Part of that is probably going to be you having that song or album uploaded to a digital music service. You could have someone else could want to cover your song, on their physical product. It could receive airplay as a result, and then you'd have a broadcast mechanical royalty maybe from that. So basically, as soon as you release something, that's when you should be engaging us. And if you are a client, make sure you register your claims with us. I can't state that enough. We have people who will send in the paperwork. There's a few forms we need, but never register their songs, or they'll register the initial ones they had at the time and then never do anything from that point forward. So we can't issue licenses and collect those royalties unless you tell us what you own. And we may think you own it or control the publishing on it, but we have to receive that instruction from you in writing. So that's a very important thing to do. And at the time you're, like, let's say you're registering it with your performing rights organization, like if it's SOCAN, register with us at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you. Last question, I believe. If I have a demo, a really good quality demo, and I want to find someone who might want to use it, use the song, re-record the song, do I come to you for that advice, or who do I come to if I'm that person?
We are the people who enter the picture kind of down the road a little bit from that. So, that's more like a publisher's role. So, or other songwriters. So you'd want to be approaching music publishers, other songwriters if you want to co-write with them, But if you already have a song done, I would recommend publishers the way to go. Some people will approach labels to see if they'll release it. You know, and in this day and age, everything's, you know, available at your fingertips, you know, and available digitally. So some people will use one of those, like a TuneCore or CD Baby or someone, and have them deliver that content to the online music services worldwide to be uploaded and available for consumption. So that may be something else you want to look at in the meantime, if you want to get it out there.
Here's the real last question, because it's mine. How does one find a publisher?
Well, we have an organization, Music Publishers Canada, that you know, a number of music publishers have formed to be a collective voice in that respect. You may be able to get in touch with them to find out if they can share a list of who their members are. Talk to fellow co-writers or fellow songwriters to see who do they have any experience using a music publisher, and if so, who and what was their experience like. We are like an impartial body, so you know, we don't recommend specific publishers for you to use. You know, we don't show favoritism in that respect. They all serve a purpose in the musical publishing ecosystem. So I would recommend maybe Music Publishers Canada or talking to songwriters.
Great. Another great answer. A string of great answers. That's awesome.
I could talk your ear off if you let me.
That was great. Well, thank you, and thanks for making this very comprehensible. You know, I've heard this information before, and I feel like I have a much better handle on it, which is great. Not easy to do. It wasn't penetrating very well, but that was really great.
Yes, and I'm still learning. Like I said, I've been at CMRRA almost 25 years. I am still learning. You know, the landscape changes all the time, or you're acquiring new knowledge. So no one person knows absolutely everything. So ask questions. I would encourage you very much so.
Yeah, and ask you questions. I mean, come to CMRRA. I'm sure would be happy to field. And we're going to post your home phone number too, so people can call you at home. Just get some. No, I'm just joking. Thank you very much for this. That was great. Thanks for your time. And I think everyone, on behalf of everyone, they're all saying thank you very much to you.
Thank you.
So thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Marianne will say goodbye to you. I think that's how this goes. But we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah. That was cool. Thank you, Marianne Anderson from CMRRA, for that, and thank you all for tuning in. I hope you got something from it. Yes, if you want to see our lineup of future Business of Music series people, torontosongwritingschool.com for a list of all that stuff. You can also check out our classes. You can check out our lyric writing classes, songwriting classes, the recording studio we run, the future getaways that will one day happen, and everything else we do. Yes, our next event is May 19th. It's on Facebook, and it's in the chat there. And I think that's everything. We will see you again soon. And yes, thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.